Hello there, thrill seekers. The great way is easy. Just avoid picking and choosing. Now, how do you do that? Let's talk about that after 8 seconds of me playing God of Thunder by Kiss. Alright, that was a little bit of the song God of Thunder, which I tried to learn an actual Ace Frehley song for this video, Parasite, but I couldn't really play it very well, so I just went with God of Thunder, which is something I learned when I was like 14 and I can still play. Anyway, Ace played it, even though he didn't write it, so it counts as a tribute to Ace Frehley. I wanted to talk about a conversation I had with a guy named Jamie Howell, who is a Zen teacher. I think he is up in the Bay Area, probably studied with San Francisco Zen Center. I actually don't know his pedigree. I should ask him one time. But I've been corresponding with him quite a bit. And he's an older fellow. He's got to be 10 or 15, maybe 20 years older than me. I'm not really sure. He's older than me. He's old enough that he was a roadie for Jefferson Airplane at one point. I think he said Jefferson Airplane. Anyway, one of those great 60s bands. So we've been conversing over the emails lately. And both of us are I've been undergoing these medical treatments, which I've been talking about, and I haven't been really specific, but most of you have figured out what it is by now. And they're not very pleasant, and they're ongoing, and I don't know when the hell they're going to end. So I'm having that going on. And Jamie he was undergoing a bout of shingles when I had this conversation. So I said to him, there is that poem called Shinjin, which is very foundational sort of Zen Buddhist poems. Shinjin means faith, mind, inscription. Actually, it means mind, faith. No, anyway, whatever. Faith, mind, inscription is how it's usually translated directly. What the hell is a faith, mind, inscription? I don't know. Some people say inscription on having faith in mind. Who knows? But anyway, the beginning of it goes something like, the great way is not difficult, just avoid picking and choosing. When the least bit of like or dislike arises, the mind is lost in confusion. And so I asked Jamie, how does somebody in our position deal with that? And I imagine some of you are in a similar position. I am in a position where I very much dislike the situation I'm in right now. And I'm sure Jamie did too, because I've had shingles before, and that's not pleasant. So I asked him, how do you deal with that? And he pointed out something that I don't know if I've read it. It's been a long time. Maybe I'd never actually read it, but it's something that appears. This is one of the many books you can find it in. So I'll show you 2 Zen classics: The Gateless Gate and Blue Cliff Records. It's translated by Katsuki Sekida. And this comes from Shambhala, the publisher Shambhala. And it contains the 2 major koan collections that are used mostly in the Rinzai school, although the Soto people draw from them too, Gateless Gate and Blue Cliff Records. And he pointed out that there's an interesting discussion of this in koan number 2 in the what's it called, Blue Cliff Record. Joshu's The Real Way is Not Difficult is how they title it. Now I'm going to skip over the introduction because frankly I don't really understand the introduction. You can read it yourself and figure out. So, but the main koan, let's just read it first and then we'll talk about it. Joshu spoke to the assembly and said, "The real way is not difficult. It only abhors choice and attachment. But with a single word, there may arise choice and attachment, or there may arise clarity. This old monk does not have that clarity. Do you appreciate the meaning of this or not?" Then a monk asked, "If you do not have that clarity, what do you appreciate?" Joshu said, "I do not know that either." The monk said, "If you do not know, how can you say that you do not have that clarity?" Joshu said, "Asking the question is good enough. Now make your bows and retire." So that's the exchange. That's the whole thing. And I want to read you a few of the footnotes. But as you can see in the beginning, Joshu, who is Chaozu, I think. Anyway, his name is often given differently because this is giving the Japanese pronunciation and the Chinese pronunciation is more like Chaozu or something like that. Somebody can correct me in the comments. I'm not going to look it up. But anyway, he is obviously paraphrasing Shinjin. And he's kind of going on a little bit more. And I'm going to read you some of the footnotes. Okay. The footnote 2, the great way is not difficult, it only abhors choice and attachment. This is a quotation from a poetical manuscript on belief in the mind. That's how he translates shinjin by the third patriarch Sosan. The opening lines of the poem run, the great way is not difficult, it only abhors choice and attachment. If you have no attachments, you have positively attained clarity. Actually, that's not the way I heard it. I heard it, if the mind is lost in confusion, if any like or dislike arises. Anyway, whatever. Here, clarity means enlightenment. In other words, if you have no attachments, you are enlightened. A simple precept which forms the theme of the poem and pithily, I hate that word, expresses the principle of Buddhism. Joshu admired these lines, but gave them a characteristic twist when he quoted them. Next footnote. With but a single word, there may arise choice and attachment, or there may arise clarity. And the footnote says, if you come out into the world of activity of consciousness, if you say but a single word, that's what that means, there may arise either delusion or enlightenment. Next footnote. This old monk does not have that clarity. And the footnote says, I have no attachment even to enlightenment. Enlightenment is valued, but if you are content with it and stick to it, then new trouble will arise, namely dharma sticking blindness. And it says see case 10, we'll ignore that for the moment. Joshu has no attachment, not even to enlightenment, which he has outgrown. Zen students are supposed to throw away whatever they achieve as it is achieved. This is called leaving no trace behind. Next footnote. Do you appreciate the meaning of this or not? And the footnote says, do you value the attitude of mind that does not stick to anything? But valuing this attitude is itself open to criticism, since it implies attachment to that state of mind. Joshu, of course, knew perfectly well that he was exposing himself to criticism here. Zen masters are willing to ridicule and even shame themselves, I guess that should be there, but it's not there, for the sake of teaching their students. This is called trudging through the mire. Next footnote. If you do not have that clarity, what do you appreciate? In point of fact, a monk came forward and pointed out Joshu's weakness. I do not know that either, is what Joshu says. Joshu's answer came quite quickly. Asking the question is good enough. Now make your bows and retire. And the footnote says, you were successful in chopping logic. Now it is finished. Retire. Or go away now. You ever read? There's a guy on the YouTube's called The Critical Drinker who does criticisms of different movies and things. And he always ends his videos with, go away now. He's Scottish. I can't do a Scottish accent. But anyway, that's what Joshu is saying. Go away now. So what do we do with this? So it's a philosophical point of doctrine, I guess, we can say doctrine, of Buddhism, that the great way, the Buddhist way, is not difficult, just avoid picking and choosing. But how do you do that? You're always picking and choosing. And Joshu, in this koan, is admitting that he sometimes picks and chooses. And he also says that sometimes it leads to clarity. So there is a case where it can lead to clarity. But that picking and choosing itself is kind of the problem. And then the student has this exchange with the student in which he points out the sort of logical fallacy of what Joshu's been saying, which Joshu has probably been saying this to point out the logical fallacy of it. And he just basically says, yeah, go away now, retire. Let's see. He says, asking the question is good enough. Now go retire. That's what he says. Sorry, I got it wrong when I just said it there. But anyway, that's the deal. The deal is you are faced with this kind of impossible conundrum, and that's kind of the way Buddhism works. You're kind of faced with something that's impossible. You can't avoid picking and choosing. In fact, just speaking any word is picking and choosing. But in reality, there is no picking and choosing. You really have not much choice in what you undergo in this life, and you're just going to have to endure it and try to make the best of it as much as you can. And that's kind of where you're stuck with Buddhism. It doesn't offer any sort of magical solutions. But it does offer a kind of way to face the difficulties that you have by accepting them. And accepting them is incredibly difficult, and I can vouch for that right now, right here. Accepting the things that life throws at you is often really, really hard. But the only way to live a life is to accept them. Now, I've said this before and I'll say it again. Acceptance does not mean complacency. It doesn't mean complacency. It doesn't mean you do nothing about it. It means you do what you can about it. And in my case and in Jamie's case, we're both doing whatever we can about the situation we're in. So we're facing it and we're trying to make it better. And I've been told I am getting better. So sometimes that's hard to believe, but it must be true because my doctor is very straight, a bit too straight about things sometimes. But if even she says I'm getting better, I must be. So I'm getting better. And I'm working at it, and I'm doing some stuff that's not pleasant at all in order to get better. So I'm saying I don't believe in complacency. But there's a kind of acceptance that has to happen. And that is powerful if you can just accept what happens first and don't fight against it. Well, don't fight against it sounds like complacency. You do whatever you can to make your situation better, but you first have to accept the situation. And this is what I think Shinjin Mei is saying. Shinjin Mei is the, what is he? Oh, now I can't find the page anymore because I took the bookmark out. But anyway, a faith mind inscription, or however they translated it, is saying, putting you in this impossible situation. Just avoid picking and choosing. How do you just avoid picking and choosing? It happens in the moment. So that's kind of what everything in Buddhism devolves down to. It's not that you have to kind of rid yourself of the capacity to pick and choose. That's the way I took it, and I think probably a lot of people who come to Buddhism take things like this way. They think it means you have to kind of eradicate that part of yourself that picks and chooses in this case, or whatever it is. But no, it's in this moment. So in this moment, I find myself in this situation. How do I accept it? And I accept it, and I accept it again, and I accept it again, and I accept it again. And then when there arises a situation where I'm not accepting it, I accept the fact that I'm not accepting it. So in that way, even picking and choosing can be a way of avoiding picking and choosing, just accepting the fact that you are picking and choosing. Anyway, that's about all I got for that one. I just think it's really interesting, and it's probably better for those of you out there who are interested to read the Koan and see how it applies to your life. And I'm appreciative of Jamie Howell for letting me know this Koan existed, because I'd totally forgotten about it. So I think that's a good thing, and I want to send my appreciation out to him for that. So there you go. All right. If you want to donate to me doing more of this kind of stuff, you can go to the URL that you're about to see on the screen below, or that you're about to hear if you're listening to the audio version, and it is hardcorezen.info/donate. That is hardcorezen.info/donate. That is where I am making most of my money these days, is from your donations, and I appreciate your donations, but as always, you don't got to donate if you don't want to donate. Also, remember that I enjoy answering your questions when I am kind of tired and a little bit wiped out from the treatments and things that I'm getting. One of the things I like doing is sitting down and answering people's questions that they send me by email. So if you want to send me a question by email, go to bw@hardcorezen.info. That's bw@hardcorezen.info. Send me a question. All right, we will see you next time. Have a good time all the time. Bye. Hey Ziggy, how you doing? Are you enjoying your sunbeam? Looks like you're enjoying it. All right, we'll let you be. See you later, Ziggy.